Hello, 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 and welcome to Survivor Debrief. My name is Eden Porter, the unlucky loser from Survivor Titans vs. Rebels. And with me, as always, is my comedic partner and real-life brother, Joshua Porter. Joshua Porter, thank you for being with us again. How are you going?
It's great to be here. The penultimate episode of Survivor Debrief for Australian Survivor Season 10. We're getting down to it. I say that every week, so we're really getting down to it. But this week, we really are getting down to it, aren't we?
We actually are getting down to it. And some would say we are getting to the pointy end of the season. Yes. And that is a saying that I've found out recently. Americans have no idea what that saying means.
Really?
Yeah, they do not know what getting to the pointy end of anything is.
What drongos those Yanks are.
Oh.
Those seppos.
Don't even get me started. So yeah, look, we've only got 2 episodes left. We're in the final 4 episodes now. This has been, it's really coming to a head. So let's crack into it. Episode 21. It's wild. Can I just say it's wild that we still have 4 postgraduates in the game as a strong alliance at this final 6 at the moment.
I don't think it's that crazy because it strikes me as one of the only solid alliances this whole season.
Yeah.
Like we had those pairs.
What about the Mega Alliance, Josh? Have you forgotten so quickly?
Oh, Jesse's Mega Alliance with everyone in the season in it. That's
Bomb
true.
Squad, Mega Alliance, Coven.
That's true.
I don't know. There was a couple of others.
The Berries was in there.
The Berries. The Berries was terrible.
Well, the only well-named... Sorry, I do like Bob Squad. Shout outs to Bob Squad. Hashtag
Bob Squad. Shout out to... No, I hate Bob Squad.
But yeah, I do. Maybe it speaks to who was in the graduates. Like all very savvy players all came together and managed to pull each other through.
Yeah, I think... And the thing with the graduates that's quite nice is they're all... You wouldn't call any of them really a goat. In the purest sense of the term.
Which feels kind of rare, right?
Yeah, everyone's had a say. Everyone's got an idea or a concept, or everyone's doing their part in that group. But it is really interesting that people haven't been able to target that.
Well, which then in the face of a group like the Coven, what made this work where the Coven fell apart, do you think?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point because the Coven seemed to... I think the biggest thing is the Coven had issues with getting everyone on the same target and everyone having the same motivation. Because a lot of times we saw it, Laura wanted to protect Rich for her own game. Zara hated Rich, wanted to get out. You have that enough times that people come to the realization we are not all pointed in the same direction and this is just not working. Whereas I think these guys have managed to always sort of have a target in mind and a way to move forward in the game. Poor Karen... Like, obviously, she was the cut loose early, but I think it's really solidified the rest of the guys together after that point.
You know what I think it was? I think the Coven is one of the alliances that was formed too early. Sometimes you just latch onto people early and you align yourself with Nash and it's all over from there.
It's like the whole Brawn tribe.
Yeah.
But didn't Karen say that in her exit interview? It was like one of the first things that came up and she was like, yep, cool, I'm in.
And a lot of it was to like make sure that we didn't lose a woman in an easy vote, for the first vote, which they unfortunately didn't manage to do.
Rest in peace, Candy.
Yeah. Candy and Indy. Yeah.
Yeah. No, Candy. She got the shrapnel against her. But one thing I want to talk about here is AJ's tactic and I had a similar tactic out on Titans versus Rebels, but he does feel like he's actually now targeting people that actively could be seen as a goat, like a Morgan, someone that they could beat really easily in the end. Because what I think's happened is majority of the game, I actually think AJ was looking at Morgan going, I can beat her. I'm going to keep her in the game for as long as possible. This is great. When he didn't have quite that social capital that he sort of built up. Whereas now I think he's in a position where he can beat people and people recognize what he's been doing. And as a result, he doesn't need a goat like a Morgan in the game still. So ultimately, everyone else has cottoned on to AJ's plan of keeping her in the game. And now it's the actual inverse. Now because everyone wants to keep her, he's now incentivized to get rid of her because he's looking at that saying, well, now everyone wants her. So I think that's why this vote he's sort of totally flipped and gone, no, we've got to get... Yeah, I think
there's an element as well as we sort of talk about keeping the bigger threats than you around just a little bit longer, just to sort of keep you safe. Because I think he views that everyone views Kate as a big threat. So I think he's definitely trying in this episode in particular to steer it towards Morgan to be like, well, give me another vote to feel a bit more safe, because then the target's still being on Kate, because everyone seems pretty gun-ho on her.
Yeah, someone as big as a target as AJ, you need to make that move as late as possible. And there's so many seasons where you get rid of the other threat at like the final 6 or the final 7, and then you're the next threat, and you don't have enough time to get across the line. It's really interesting. Is there anything else in this sort of pre? Everything else is.
One little thing that AJ sort of mentioned, which is kind of coming clean out. It sounds like that Kalen is his ticket to the end. Like, he's kind of
would you call them ride or die?
You know what? I would use that exact phrase to describe
I would as well.
AJ's feelings towards Kalen, which I kind of hadn't got a sense of. And I don't know if he's come to that realization later, like in the last few votes, or it's been his plan for quite a while.
I actually think it's been in the works quite a while, because there's been a few little confessionals of AJ where he does sort of dismiss Miles a little bit, where he does sort of say, oh, Miles is doing Miles stuff. And they've had conversations where Miles has come up and started talking, and then he's left, and then he's gone back to Kalen and said, no, that doesn't matter. Let's you and me. And I really think he's managed to create an environment where Kalen thinks that he can beat AJ, and AJ knows that he can beat Kalen in the end.
Yep.
And it's really interesting, because what I think he's done really well is he's actually put that target on Kalen and build up Kalen's confidence by always saying, man, you're the challenge beast. You've won so many. Record breaker right here, man. You are the bomb. And he's feeding it into his head that this means something. That come final tribal council, you can stand there and say, I have just broken the record of the most individual immunity wins. And I think
you don't need to do anything else.
Yeah, I think he's fed that into him enough that he sort of feels that.
Yeah.
And I think it's brilliant on AJ's behalf if that's what he's been doing. Yeah.
And it's interesting, in the face of that as well, we heard Miles sort of saying that he's worried about Kalen because he thinks everyone wants to take Kalen to the end. So it's interesting that like he's kind of picked up AJ's plan in essence. Should we get to the immunity challenge?
Let's get to the immunity challenge, Josh. Now, this was the pushing the balls up the bridge part.
Yeah, so you had gather them in the water, and then that kind of amounted to nothing. It was all about this, pushing them up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you probably didn't even need that rest of that challenge. It was just push the balls.
But in the absence of a puzzle, it's kind of like you hope that the person who gets the lead there then loses it in the puzzle. You know, you kind of have that dynamic often. But I quite like this. It definitely feels like one of those, there's a learning curve to this. There's a learning curve to this.
I've heard that before.
Yeah. I quite like this one. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I liked it as well. One thing I wanted to mention is Miles is quite good at thinking through challenges and on the fly being like, okay, I need grip here and I need to move this here and then get this up here and then I can jump over this bit. And I think a big part of that is actually being able to eat at rewards honestly, get your brain working and moving. Yep. It's way easier once you've had a bit of food. It is like, it shocked me. I went long enough without eating anything besides rice, how much your brain did slow down and you weren't thinking that quick. So if you have a couple of rewards at this point in the game, you are easily more switched on in terms of trying to think through challenges.
Are they still doing reward challenges this late? Like, we don't see them on TV, but are they still doing them?
Well, they've done enough in the last couple of days that you've got food in your belly.
Okay.
Like I think they were one a couple of days ago, because these are all like one after the next in consecutive order.
End,
pretty much. So if you've had one 2 days ago compared to someone that hasn't eaten maybe in 6 days, you're at a definite advantage there. It's pretty crazy. Yeah.
So in the end, it was quite tight between Miles and Kalen. We had Kalen winning his 6th individual immunity. Eden, what do you make of that?
Record breaking, Joshua.
Huge.
Record breaking. This is 6. This is huge. America's had everyone do 5. This is 6. Congratulations, mate.
Yeah.
It's right up there. Like, this is a huge achievement. He's got the good body type. It hasn't just been strength challenges he's been good at. He's been good at a few different type of things. Hand-eye coordination he's very good at. It's very interesting. But do you think next season, come next newbie season, is going to put a target on this sort of body type person earlier? Because they're going to go, well, we can't have another Kalen situation where he's the only one in the game winning everything.
I think you might identify after a second win. Maybe a first, as you get to individual, if the person you suspect to go on a streak wins 1, maybe at that point you go, maybe we need to nip this in the bud early. But I was just wondering, in terms of these records, do they ever take into, and I'm not discounting Kalen at all, it's tremendous, but do they ever take into account a competition? Like who you've actually won those against?
No, they never go, okay, he was the only strong male left, and so
Yeah.
he won this many. They never take that. What they do take into account, which is getting very nerdy, they take into account percentage of challenges done. Because there are longer seasons that have more challenges and other seasons that have less.
Oh, right.
So you can win less immunities, but if you've got less challenges overall, your percentage is actually higher.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. You had less opportunity. You could have
Yeah,
won more,
yeah.
but you didn't have the challenges.
So it's actually more. Is it better to win 4 out of 5 than
Right.
6 out of 10? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's more impressive just to win more overall. Like,
I think it is. So Aussie, just for those viewers out there, Aussie has the highest percentage from Cook Islands. I think he has an 80-something% win rate. Yeah,
Huge.
it's pretty crazy. But yeah, it's honestly winning 6 is amazing. It's really
it's a lot when you think about it. You're like, wow. Also, fundamentally, would change every tribal council because I wonder how much that alters your thinking of, oh, we really need to get this right when you're really never in danger at all. Because it's like it's like having an idol in your pocket, but like you almost have to think less because you just have it around your neck, you know?
Yeah, and the other thing is it keeps, and he actually mentions this at Tribal. He says, I'm stopping the other people on the other side of the vote winning it because we've all seen the people that really need it and they put in that extra bit of oomph and they get across the line and then it throws all the... And I've actually missed that this season. I've missed the person being targeted winning immunity and then everyone having to scramble and figure out something else.
Yeah.
And like that's usually quite fun, and we haven't had that.
We kind of got a taste of that with Paulie and some of his to be, gripping onto that pole and trying to last out the last minute. And yeah, I agree. We kind of haven't had that kind of nails, when you really need it, fighting for it.
Yeah. And one thing and we might just mention here because we are talking about Kaylin's immunity wins. It does not seem to have impacted the game. For someone that wins this many, it has not seemed to have a big impact because if you look at, say, Mike Holloway in Worlds Apart in America, he was the target and he
was
kept
hated.
winning.
Yeah.
He was kept winning. Like, and it gets to a point where at the end of the day, they're like, okay, well, you got through. You were really good. And it did impact the game. People had to vote off different people.
Yeah.
This doesn't feel like him winning has changed the game or what would have happened, really.
Well, it doesn't feel like it's ever saved him.
No.
It never felt like, oh, and our alliance got this and now we've got this power on our side. Yeah, it's kind of like, okay, Kaylin got it again. What are we doing? I guess we'll just do our plan.
There's that old thing of like, Kate, like Morgan wins immunity and then Kate has a hidden immunity idol. So now they can't vote off those two.
Yeah.
Oh, now what's going to happen? And that's crazy. And we haven't really had that, which is unfortunate.
No.
So now we're into the scramble, right?
Yes.
So a couple of things there. One thing is that I found really hilarious was obviously AJ goes to talk to Kate and sort of tells her, hey, mate, look, put your vote on Morgan and you'll be safe. And she just instantly bursts into tears. And then I'm not sure whether AJ has enough RAM to to process what's going on. Because the look on his face was just like, because I can tell logically he's like, well, yeah, that's what you do. You stay in the game. You do this. I'm giving you an olive branch.
This is AJ talking to AJ.
Yeah,
AJ was in that position to be like, yeah, I'm on the bottom. Yeah, right. I should have added them because I'm completely done here. But it was interesting. I was like, I don't think he necessarily did it in an untactful way. It was so matter of fact, I guess. And it was maybe something that Kate hadn't really thought about, maybe. Like, maybe this was the first time it really gone through her mind to be like, I might have to vote out my ride or die if I'm going to stick around in this game.
But I think maybe she was hoping AJ would say, girls, because I think they have had conversations about them being the final 3.
That's
and
true.
I think in her head she was like, okay, how can we make this work with AJ and stuff like that? And we're going to get through. This is going to be because I'm pretty sure her plan was probably to go to the end with AJ and Morgan, and then she was going to take Morgan to the end after she won the final immunity. I think that was her plan. I'm not sure, but in saying that, it came to a shock to her, and then AJ afterwards. I think AJ has a confession where he's like, "Well, I didn't do that great."
Yeah, so funny. I hope that was like straight away as she walked away. It's like I really blew that. Jesus.
Yeah. But I thought that was funny.
The other interesting thing I found interesting was obviously everyone kind of wants to get rid of Kate, in particular Zara. Zara's been big on getting rid of Kate, and I feel like Zara has this idea in her head that Kate is like this slightly better version than me, or anything I can do, Kate might do it a little bit better. So we got to get rid of her now. And it was like, it was such an interesting thing to hear. And it speaks to this thing we spoke about earlier in this season about everyone playing their own game and it's their season. And AJ and Zara having this conversation about it. And AJ goes, well, I want to get Morgan. And I don't want to get Kate. And then Zara just goes, no, Kate is my threat.
Yeah.
No, we've got to get rid of my threat, you idiot, not yours.
No, not your threat. That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And she wants none of it. Because AJ, it feels like, again, he's doing a last minute like switch up. And God, man, Zara is, we're not doing this.
Yeah. But
like,
it would get, it's kind of the case of, what is this dynamic in this alliance? If this thing keeps happening and you're not getting your way, at what point do you really push back and go, well, my pushback isn't to vote for someone else. My pushback is to get you out of the next vote because I can't work with you.
Anymore.
And it's just gone along long enough that now you're in this position that there's kind of not a lot of room to move and you've got other people you have to get. You can't really waste a vote on AJ if you don't want to. You know what I mean? Like it's such an interesting point now when you get down to these numbers that it already feels like it's too late. You know, like as you start putting it together, it's like, is it too late?
It's honestly crazy when everything ramps up so quick that you do suddenly feel like your options have narrowed instantly.
Yeah.
Like from where you are at, feeling good in your group of 4, because realistically, once it gets down to like 7 or so, if you've got a group of 4, you can control that, and that's what they have done moving forward. But at the same time, it gives you less moves. So it's obviously, to me, it looks from this episode at least, Miles and Zara want to keep Morgan because they both feel they've got a brilliant chance of beating her in the end, and they're like, this will be great. We're gonna take her along, and that gives that alarm bell to AJ saying these people aren't going to take me because there's this other piece on the board that they can take. So I think that's sort of come to fruition. That's why AJ ultimately wanted to and again, like you said before, keep Kate in. She's a big target. It's one less vote they're going to target AJ as opposed to if Kate's still in the game.
Yeah.
Then we cut to the conversation of Kate and Morgan, where Morgan's just been chilling in the hammock with her head in her caftan or whatever, and she sort of gives Kate permission to vote her out. She said, "That's okay, man. Like you go beat them all. You go do it." And we sort of get for the first time a real interesting insight into their relationship.
Yeah,
we haven't really seen that.
Really
much.
Yeah, really emotional connection. Both of them in tears, being like, "No, you go ahead. No, you go on without me. I can't do it." Like both of them kind of really not wanting to put each other's name down, which is quite nice. Of like, that's what it should be with a duo. And then we saw, obviously, off the back of that, Kate goes, "Well, stuff this. I'm going to actually try and do something here," which I really liked.
I loved that Kate. She had information, and this is interesting. She had information, and she used that information.
Yep.
She had a conversation with Miles. She got the sense from what Miles had said. It's Kaylin at 5, and like, let's do this. And then she used that by going to tell Kaylin and putting the fear of God in him about, hey, they're coming for you at 5. Miles has actually said that, and it was I felt like there were wheels in motion. Kaylin starts to feel like, oh no, maybe I don't have this on lock.
Well, it was nice because it was like, well, the only option isn't voting Morgan. Like that isn't your only option. You know, do you have other things you could do if you can scare the others enough to be like, I'm still here, Morgan. Like I think if you're still in a pair at this stage of the game, it's probably too much power to hand over. But once you get down to a single, you could quite widely go, I'm another vote here that I can help you knock out a bigger competitor.
Yeah. And so then we're at Tribal Council. And they sort of talking, and it does feel they're talking about Kaylin's win again, but it does feel like it doesn't really matter at this point in the game. What I want to sort of say from this position, I think AJ and Kaylin both think they can beat each other at this point, so they're pretty locked in. Kate and Morgan are locked in, and then Zara and Miles are the ones that are interesting that can sort of decide what sort of which way they want to go. And I still think Zara talks about resumes and things like that, but Miles to me has done enough already that he doesn't really need to make another really big flashy move. I feel like AJ could probably talk about it. Kaylin has something there, but Zara, maybe in her head, she still feels like she needs to defeat a nemesis. She needs a story arc to get through, and I think that's why it keeps coming back to this obsession with getting rid of Kate, and like, I've got to get rid of her. I've got to get rid of her. Almost to the point of that she's blinded to other options, which is which
absolutely.
is interesting. Miles in this tribal council says, "Look, maybe down the line we can look at doing a move. I'm like, buddy, you're down the line. This is the end of the line. This is your very few opportunities.
Yeah, I had that. I said, Miles, a bit further down the road. You're at final 6.
Yeah, this is it, mate.
You're at the end of the road. Yeah, there is no more room to move now. So I think everyone's kind of being a bit coy in what they're saying, but it's clear, and we hear it a lot in the next episode as well. It's very much an individual game at this point.
What do you think of when you say coy? I always think of like, like being a little coy in their moves. Yeah. Then for out of the blue, Joshua, JLP says things are a little different tonight, but someone will be going home. Someone will be going home.
I like that as well.
I'll stop you there. I'll stop you there, everyone. Someone will be going home.
Put your phones down. Close Twitter.
Close Twitter. Log off.
Someone is going home.
Yeah. So then we have this extra immunity challenge. Josh, why are they doing this now?
I wrote no.
I don't know. I don't. It doesn't need.
I just feel at this point at Final 6, let their games do the talking. Let all the things they've put in place, let how they've positioned themselves in the game, let that naturally play out how it will. I think it's dynamic and interesting enough. I don't think we need this extra twist to save people and throw a spanner in the works, even if it feels like it's an easy vote. I don't mind it because to me it's still shaping up what is the final 2 going to be, you know?
Yeah. See, this would have been really bad. It would have been good if there was just one person that desperately needed it and you just gave them one more chance to win.
And they'd have to turn on each other.
And they'd have to turn on each other and it blows up everything and it's a crazy tribal council. But because it's Morgan and Kate, they're like, okay, Kate wins. So
whoever loses, pretty much. If neither of them win.
Yeah. The other thing with this immunity challenge, this is obviously the stacking of the blocks one. It comes right down to it. I felt they edited this for a long time. There was lots of nearly stacks go over, nearly stacks go. I didn't need all that. I
couldn't quite understand the rules of it. Could you you could take 2 blocks over, or could you take more if you could carry them? And it seems like they had freedom of how they could stack it, which I found really interesting.
That's a rule. You can stack it any way.
Okay, that's really interesting.
But you've only got a limited number of blocks.
Gotcha.
So in the past, people have done actually quite complex structures, but they've run out of blocks to get to the point. So they've actually had to unbuild it and then build it more less stable. I
really like this challenge, the rope one, feeding it back and going back and forth. I think it's really difficult and really high tension. The time limit thing, I don't know. I kind of like, just get it. Just stuff 45 minutes.
But what if it just goes forever? What if they can't? What if the wind comes up and if nothing works?
I guess they're at tribal. They're like, come on, guys, everyone, the jury's waiting.
I originally thought that they had added the 45 minutes in post. I thought they'd added JLP going, or 45 minutes. But no, because he mentions it during the challenge as well. But yeah, again, a spare thought for our poor jury sitting, not even getting to watch, because I don't think they were even watching.
They're only there to observe the tribal council.
Yes, not to talk.
Yeah, as we're saying, the person who needed it most in the end wins it, and Kate actually pulled it through and won, which is great. And that was a very good win for her. And I think also cements the reasons to get rid of her. I think when you win that,
this is Zara self-realizing and putting it out into the world, saying like, I can't beat Kate. Kate, we've got to get rid of her. And then it came down to Zara versus Kate. And then
Zara was doing the secret bit in reverse.
The anti-secret. She was doing the harpo.
The harpo.
Isn't that? That's Oprah backward. Yeah. See? Yeah, there's layers. There's layers. This is great. And then, ultimately Morgan goes home without any fanfare. She doesn't get her final words either.
No.
Who knows? Who knows?
It's very unceremonious.
Very unceremonious, but it's done.
But yeah, so Morgan just dumped on. It was just essentially dumping on Morgan at that point.
Yeah. Do you think Kate would have gone home if she hadn't have won? I think she would have.
I think she would have. I think if AJ couldn't pull it together, I don't think he'd like flip and not go with the plan. I think he would. I think he would just go along with it to keep the peace. I think. But yeah, I think Kate probably would have gone home.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Okay, episode 22. Now, I want to start this episode by again saying the graduates, again, sticking together, getting all the way through. It's insane. If we take a step backwards for a moment, why do you think Karen was cut before, instead of Zara in the original breakdown? Was it just because she mentioned the Logan idol thing? Is that the only thing? I feel like she was always sort of.
That's true. I think there was also probably a lot more tension with AJ than even more so than we saw. I think them butting heads a lot. Maybe other people saw that as well, and it's kind of like uncomfortable. Like, is this our alliance? Like, Karen's flipping off at AJ. AJ's going nuts at Karen. I think it's that. To me, felt like the tension there that didn't exist with Zara. I feel like Zara could get along with everyone a bit more, and maybe Karen, when it wasn't going her way, was maybe a bit more vocally fiery and a bit more in people's faces. What do you think?
Yeah, because I actually think that vote was probably the downfall of the rest of the girls in the game, because you look at everyone else in there. If Karen is still in the game and Zara goes home at that point, because Zara was there was a couple of votes on Zara. Karen actually voted for Zara in that vote as well. So
Okay.
if your Logans and your Kristens end up voting for Zara instead, and Zara goes home, I think that opens the game up way more because of the AJ versus Karen tension. I think Karen then is much more flexible to move and make moves and go out there in the world. So ultimately, I think that the graduates made the right call and set themselves up. After that point, I don't think anyone had enough going for them to actually topple the graduate, which is amazing that
Yes.
that happens so early that feels like the point that it could have gone in a different direction, because after that it's felt pretty academic. Like, everyone has just gone home. Logan called it. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Logan called it. She said, "Mate, if we don't go to Rocks now, you guys are all done, and
Yeah,
they're just going to
totally.
vote you out one at
It's
a time."
absolutely playing out that way.
It's come to fruition.
And that's what it should be, right? If your game's over if not. But I do agree with you. I think, Karen, it feels like there's probably more pathways and willing to break it up a bit. So maybe the graduates did a really good job of cutting her loose to solidify the numbers, which is kind of rare that you cut someone out of an alliance and then stick together. Like, you feel like, is that the point it breaks up and it all dissolves? But it seems like they went, nope.
Yeah, because usually what happens is they go, "Oh, we've seen one person get cut from this group.
Could be any of us.
It could be who's the next on the bottom," and then that bottom person is then incentivized. But I feel like no one really thought they were on the bottom of it.
No.
And that's perfect. That's perfect alliance. Interesting. I just want to note here, good on the camera crew. They found some rat B-roll. They found some jungle rat B-roll coming out of somewhere.
Get the tin pot sound effect. Clang.
Clang. Yeah, they got that there, so that was locked in. Interesting little confessional here by AJ as well, where he says that Miles has played a much smaller game than him. So he feels like they've played similar games, but he himself has had more moves and more things, or moving parts than Miles. And Miles, I think this is a truth moment from AJ, where he really does see Miles as, yes, Miles has had all the idols, but Miles has been coming to him, telling him, "I've got an idol," and then AJ has been able to use the information that he's got to then tell, "Okay, this is when we should use it. This is what we should do with it." So I feel like AJ has felt that he's used Miles's idols for his own game.
You know how I might describe AJ's playing of this in the face of Miles? I think AJ's been a bit of an invisible hand, if you will, Eden. I think he's been guiding things a bit more. Miles has been much more on show, big public, particularly at tribals and that kind of thing. But I think AJ's built those background relationships, got that information from everyone, and has really, as we talk about a lot, understood where all those pieces on the chessboard are, and has been really able to maneuver through them. Whereas I think AJ's been a bit more, Miles has been a bit more blunt force with his actions and doing big moves and doing big crazy stuff.
Yeah, I also think but the weird thing in that regard is, then why does AJ have such a blind spot for Miles coming after him? Because he didn't see that.
No, not at all. No, he's
quite
completely
strange.
blind to it. Yeah, because he seems so on track with everything. But maybe the connections he's built with Miles throughout it, and the way that they've been sharing information, sharing idols, and commending each other's gameplay. Maybe he just feels like, maybe he thinks Miles thinks he can beat him. Maybe that's why. Maybe he's downplayed his game so much to Miles, maybe.
I think the conversations you have with Miles and AJ in terms of, man, you and me, final two, how great would this season be if the two big players get to the end and go up against each other? That's what I was doing with Mark.
Yeah.
And wanted to do that. But I think the change point has happened where Miles has seen AJ and Kaylin and how close they've got and what they're talking about. And I think that at that point, he has realized that he isn't in AJ's end game. And I think that's why this move is happening now. And I don't think AJ has noticed that Miles has noticed. that.
I'd agree. And I think we also heard Miles speaking about his pathway to the end now. He wants to get rid of AJ next and then Kate, leaving himself, Miles, Zara, and Kaylin in the final, which is interesting.
Also, do we have a sound effect? New nickname alert. New nickname alert.
Miles
tries out and...
All aboard your
All
nickname.
aboard the nickname. So Miles tries out a new nickname for AJ, Emperor AJ.
I heard that.
It does not catch on. No one is getting aboard this nickname train.
Anything regal, just drop it. Just anything regal we got. It's the Duke, AJ.
Do you know, I had a little one in my back pocket that I was going to pull out if I got any further. I was like, I want to save this a little bit until I really start making some moves. It was going to be, you've had the Golden Gourd, now the Platinum Prince.
Hey, very good. Very good.
I did not get to use it.
The lucky Platinum Prince loser.
Yeah, exactly. More like the tinfoil prince. Yeah, exactly. So let's get on to the challenge.
So this is the high stepping block balance carrying one where you got to stack the blocks after stepping through the high step.
I think this also referred to as the anti-tall person challenge.
Anti-tall person challenge.
I feel for AJ. AJ's quite a tall lad like myself. And just adding that bar in the middle where you had to get under, brutal.
The last challenge and this one, I still feel like AJ, his reactions to losing strike me as someone who doesn't care. Like, he's going like, oh, darn. Like, it's that kind of thing rather than, oh, damn it. And they have to run and like all of these. I don't know if it's a ploy, but maybe he's still to this point playing slow to be like, my name's not really out there in terms of challenges. Yeah. I'm going to make him think that continuing on.
He needs to have the dun, 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 when he drops his blocks or something.
Do you think this one and the last one a bit, should these kind of things be height adjusted? Should you put like that limbo bar at a height that it's even, or?
I don't know if you need the limbo bar. Like, because the other thing is, because what it's meant to be is short. I think how they've done it is short people are at a disadvantage because it's harder for them to get their legs over the thing. So then they're like, we'll put a bar in to make it disadvantage for the height people. So in their mind, they're doing both. Oh, yeah. But what about making the stepping thing like at everyone's knees?
Up to your knees,
You measure it to your knees, and so it's everyone's the same.
I like the idea of things being adjusted to be even. I don't know why. There's something I like about that to be like, hey, we've done our best to make this, rather than being like, you might be stuffed at this one, you might kill this one. It's like, well, what's your overall skill set, all things equal? Yeah. Like, I like that idea. I'd like to see more of that on Survivor generally.
Just
percentage of your body weight. Love that.
Do you
phrase.
like the percentage?
Love percentage of your body weight.
I actually hated percentage of my body weight because I don't like, my body weight is not strength body weight. My body weight is just body weight.
Yeah.
So it was a lot harder for me.
It's the bare minimum your body has.
Yeah, I was just going. Like, I was just down I go. There was a couple, which was my body weight. I'm like, do I really weigh this much? This is outrageous.
Like, what percentage? That is crazy. This is way too much.
Because my percentage is stretched.
Yeah.
Is stretched.
Can I get my weight stretched vertically?
Yeah,
please?
Can
we separate the atoms in my weight, please?
Yeah, exactly. And then who wins this one, Josh? Zara.
Zara, quite impressively, slow and steady, the tortoise.
Yes, the tortoise. Oh, nickname alert. No.
But yeah, it was
Zara
nice. It was, and it
very
felt
happy.
really, it felt really vindicating for Zara, like to have been in this position throughout the whole game. Felt like kind of like a mid-card player a lot of the time, like as part of the plans, but sort of in the mix and that kind of thing. To have a bit of a breakout moment was quite nice to see.
Yeah, I think so. So then we get to this crazy scramble. Now, remembering the key piece of information that Miles and AJ know is that Miles has an idol.
Yes.
In this. So it does impact a few things because
it's the last chance to use the idol.
Yeah, so you have to use it. So now Miles is basically safe and Zara is basically safe. So the only three people that you can really vote for are, your AJs, your Kaylins, or your Kates. And that's sort of the lay of the land. But not everyone knows about the Miles idol. Although I think AJ tells Kaylin.
Yeah, I think everyone does at this point, I think.
This sets up a lot of subplots of the 2v2 subplots.
Yeah.
So 2 votes here, 2 votes here. Because the idea is, depending on who gets the tie, those people don't vote.
Yep.
After that. So there's a lot of different, combinations that you can go through. Yeah.
Like, I kind of understood it, but it was so confusing to understand the splits. Like, I understood sort of who was working with each other. And I think the easiest way was like AJ and Kaylin were very much working together.
Yep.
Kate and Miles ended up sort of working together, and Miles and Zara as well, sort of talking about working together anyway. But it was really interesting that the splits, it's just, what's the real plan? Who really knows what's going on? There's this split, this split, this split. But it was quite an interesting scramble because now the focus is so heavily, and they talked about a tribal of like, who am I going to beat? What is this next vote? What is the next vote after that? And it's not only who you can beat at the end, it's, well, at this next vote, who's going to want to keep me around? Like, that's as much of a consideration. That's what I find really interesting about this point in the game, that it's really, there's so many different elements. What do you think is the top thing you need to be thinking about in this vote?
Who you can beat at the end.
Who you can beat at the end.
Who and who's going to take you to the end. Because there's no point, because I think what you can do, you can back yourself and go, I'm just going to get rid of the person that I think is going to win the final immunity, and I'm going to back myself to win that instead. And I don't care who else is there, because I'm going to win that last one, and then I can take the weaker person to the end to beat you, to win. But I think you need to be thinking, who's going? How do I raise my chances of getting to the final tribal council? I think AJ has done a good job with Kalen to make him think that he can beat AJ.
Yep.
As a result, he's going to take him. I'm not sure
we've
whether
heard, just
other
on
people
that,
have done that. Yeah,
we've heard consistently AJ cheering and clapping for Kalen with his wins. What do you make of that? He's been very vocal, particularly with JLP. Like, I hope he goes on this streak right to the end.
Yeah, this is just building up the concept, like we talked about before, of like immunity wins mean something. Oh man, he's going to kill it at the end because you've just played so good and it's so meaningful, when really it doesn't. And it's setting someone up. It's setting a false narrative up. I think that's what's happening. The other thing I wanted to say is, like, Kalen is finally able to be voted out.
Yes.
And as a result, he does go in a bit of a paranoid sort of scramble mode at this point. He's running around talking to people. He's talking to Kate. He's talking to Miles. He's talking to AJ. He's like, so what's going to happen? Where's this vote? Oh, I'm going to set a rat trap. I did like that. I did like that. So I'm going to set this rat trap up. And if he doesn't use the idol, he goes home. But if he does, he doesn't. It really, what did you think of, like, running around Kalen?
I think it's still kind of weird that despite having a record-breaking streak, it's not, we've got to get rid of Kalen now. That's the kind of thing I found most surprising.
Yeah.
Normally, in any other, I cannot think of another time where you would say someone is going to break the record for the most individual immunity wins, and you don't get rid of them at the first chance you have.
As soon as they can. Yeah.
Unless that speaks to what the game they've seen Kalen play otherwise. And if you're there standing next to Kalen and you've been part of his alliance, I think you can really easily say, well, actually, Miles, or if AJ or Miles or whoever it is, it'd be like, well, no, we were doing all that. He just won the immunities. We were actually moving all this stuff around. Whereas I think if he was more in opposition, as Mike Holloway was, you could sort of feed that a bit more to be like, well, no, I had to fight and scramble to get there.
That is a better story. That is the better story, because when you look at this end game now, I'm actually worried about Kalen being able to beat anyone.
Yeah.
Because I actually think his story isn't that interesting. I think Miles' story is more interesting. I think Kate's story is more interesting. I think Zara could definitely rake him over the coals. Again, I don't think he will perform that well in a final tribal council against someone like a Zara, against someone like an AJ, who can really talk rings around him. I'm actually really worried that, like, I think he probably really needed Morgan in the game still to have someone that he could really beat and take to the end.
It seems that way.
I'm not like he's...
And I think people's confidence in not wanting to go at him really hard speaks to that, I think.
Yeah.
That it's not a foregone. Everyone's like, no, we got to stick around. I guess that speaks to, well, they see other people as more of a threat. They see Kate as more of a threat, like...
Yeah, well, Kate is a threat. I think the jury is on board with Kate. I think there's a bit, quote unquote, bitterness of the jury against some people that sort of got past them. But Kate's sort of the underdog, and a jury loves an underdog. Well, I think it would have been, I think they would have got on board.
Yeah, Kate's been really interesting because, like, really didn't hear anything from her from the first half of the season. Then she just became this voting block with Morgan for so long, but never really felt like dictating too much or being in control too much or facilitating moves too much. It always just felt like, oh, yeah, that's a little voting block that can be used, and we'll vote here and vote here.
Yeah, I think she picked up a lot of momentum in the back half of the season.
Massive,
I actually think she got a lot of people behind her. She started to actually, I think she figured out the
challenges.
Game. Yeah, did well at challenges. I think she figured out the game as well. She got to the point of like, I can use information this way by telling people this and telling other people that. I think it just took her a while. I don't think she needed to play the game in that way until later on, because she never got in a position where she was really a big target.
And then you've
kind of had that connection with AJ.
Yeah, and then you've kind of run into this pretty strong alliance, which is hard to go against if you don't have similar ammunition behind you.
Yeah.
The other big thing that we had was obviously Miles gunning for AJ at this point, feeling like I've got to get rid of him. I don't think I can beat him at the end. Now's a good time to do this move. And then coming to tears over it as we saw Kate doing it. So it seems like Miles thinks AJ is his ride or die. But AJ does not feel the same. But it speaks to
the sidecar is separating from the motorbike. Yeah.
From your experience playing, like you saw it from Kate and you saw it from Miles, and Miles very specifically saying, these people, I become really good friends with them. Did you get to that point with some of the people you were playing with, or do you think that comes another 10 days later, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I was connecting with people, but I was pretty...
The game's the game.
I was pretty much the game's the game, and I would have to cut people when I had to cut people, and I could do that. I don't think I would ever get to the point. Like Ferris and Ray, they were never going to cut each other, like ever. Yeah. I think, I'm not sure about Mark and the V's, but there wasn't a lot of other... and maybe Kirby and Riri were never going to cut each other either. Mm-hmm. So I think I didn't have someone that I would never cut, because I do think there is advantages to having someone on the jury that is your ride or die.
Yeah, that's true.
That's there saying like, oh man, Eden was doing a lot of stuff. He was working really hard. So I think that is beneficial. So sometimes if you can maybe not vote them out, but don't stop them getting voted out.
Yeah.
And not be that target, I think is could be really beneficial as well. One thing I wanted to say as well about the this immunity. So before Zara won the immunity, right, Miles and Zara are talking pretty openly, like how cool would it be to get rid of AJ? It's going to be such a sick move. At no point did they worry about Kate, AJ, and Kaylin just putting 3 votes on one of them. Like, I know Miles has the idol, but still, that could have easily happened.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't even in Miles's head, right? Because he's like, well, I know I've got the idol. I don't need to worry about that. But maybe they understand the dynamics of Kate. They feel that Kate's closer to them. I don't know. It's really interesting, the little formations that we've seen, that it has not seemed super clear cut. And even in the vote, we sort of see Zara really plotting out what she's actually going to do. And then we also had Miles pitching to Kate to vote for Kaylin. And if we want to move into tribal now.
Yeah, let's move into tribal.
So we had Miles pitching to Kate, hey, you vote for Kaylin. And then this was Miles sowing a seed for the next vote. So then you could go to Kaylin and be like, well, Kate, look, Kate voted for you. We've got to sort that out. We've got some tension there. But so Kate has ended up voting with Miles. But if she had also...
The wrong way. Yeah.
Yeah, if he had got her to vote for AJ... it would have come off cleanly rather than going for this split. So do you think that's a good idea for Miles to be like, rather than locking down what I actually want to happen, which is AJ going home, I've got this second tier plan that I'm pretty happy with. Do you like that? Or do you think you just need to lock down that vote you're going for? Or is it all dependent on the relationships?
Look, I just don't think Miles and Kate had a good enough relationship to actually pull something out. And I don't think AJ could really communicate the benefits to Kate in a way of, like, you're with us, let's do this thing. I think he was putting information out there. Because at one point, doesn't Miles say, well, you can't do anything else?
Yeah, quite blankly, which is like...
Which is not a good...
Just relax.
Which is not good. Like, you never say stuff like that. Like, that puts people on side. But the other thing with me is, I thought Kate and AJ had the relationship.
That's true, yeah.
But she doesn't end up working
Following
with AJ.
with AJ, no. No, it's very interesting because
I thought was really interesting.
Well, that's what we'd sort of been seeing building for so long, and everyone was really worried about it. It seemed like, oh well, AJ's had a really good relationship with Morgan and Kate.
Yeah. But she doesn't go with that in the end. No. It was funny that Miles. Can I just say actually, in my notes, without a shadow of a lie, I have written down when I was watching the episode, I was going, because can you agree that it felt like AJ was going to go home?
Yeah. I was really like, oh my God.
So I wrote in my notes, actually, It could be better for Zara to burn Miles here, turn the boys against him, win final 3 immunity, and take Kaylin to the end and win. And that's what I think. And this has the first part of this has definitely pulled out. Zara came to the same conclusion. She's like, I could burn Miles, and then for the next vote, they both hate on Miles. That gives me extra wriggle room, and then I back myself to beat them in the final.
Yeah. Well, maybe that was her play all along, to be like, I'll go along with Miles, and maybe she was very sure in her mind that, like, I don't care what happens, I have to get rid of Kate. Like, I cannot keep her around. I've got a much better shot at the final immunity than with her not there. But if I lead Miles down this garden path, he's going to put a lot of heat on himself by voting for AJ, which, so maybe this was Zara. It wasn't so much I'm going to decide when I get there. It was very calculated, perhaps, that she wanted to stir up that tension.
Yeah, because on the talk online is very much, there's a lot of people saying like, oh, Zara should have made a move, got rid of AJ, biggest person in the game. I think that then opens, if she gets rid of AJ there, Kate's still in the game. I don't think Kate's taking it to the end. I think then Zara becomes... I don't know. I think she's in a worse position at that point. I think because I think she can't beat Kate in that endurance.
I kind of feel like between the three, AJ, Kaylin, and Miles, I think between those three, I think a lot of them would want to take Zara. I think a lot of them would be comfortable going to the end with Zara than each other. I think.
Well, I think AJ and Kaylin are pretty locked in.
I think that's pretty locked, but I don't know. I could see it that they would be happy to take Zara along.
Yeah. So the other thing is. So AJ had this blind spot for Miles, right? AJ was very, very lucky in this vote that this came together. One thing I think that really sort of hampered him was the fact that Miles still had his idol. And I actually think a flaw in AJ's game was that he didn't get Miles to burn his idol earlier.
Oh, yeah.
I think he should have played into Miles's paranoia a little bit more, maybe on the Kristen vote or the one before that as well with the Logan vote, just to make him use it, to burn it, to get in a position. Because this could have been really bad with the combination of Zara and Miles both winning, both having something to be immune, then narrowed the field dramatically. That if Kate is not there and it's Isa Morgan, I think AJ does go home.
Yeah. Yeah, someone else who you want to keep around more. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I think he should have tried to burn that idol earlier.
Yeah, because really, at the end of the day, it's not AJ's idol. It's Miles' idol, but you know about it. So I think you're right. And I'd be really curious to know, if we saw Miles talk about how he's played his fourth idol now, how, and maybe someone can look this up, because I'd love to know, how many tribals did Miles go to where he didn't have an idol? How many times was he actually under threat from going home? Because I think we've seen that freedom, and we spoke about this a lot, this freedom from Miles to play the way he wants and throw these plans out there. For this one, I wonder how differently this vote might have gone if Miles didn't have that idol, both in terms of he could be a target and also his willingness to stir things up. Because at the end of the day, he knew, it's like, I'm fine. I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, and that is playing with an idol in your back pocket is so different, and you can be free and you can make crazy moves. But if you look back at the idol, like I remember some of the episodes where Miles didn't have an idol near the start of the game.
Yeah.
Miles plays like a different person. He gets on people's nerves. He's running around. He's trying to be like, what are you thinking? What are we doing? What are we doing? He wants to know the plan. He wants to know anything. And then as soon as he gets an idol and he can just sort of step back and be like, I want to do this. I'm just going to do this.
Well,
and he's deciding what he wants to do.
Yeah.
Because he feels like he's safe. It's very different.
And we saw that flip-flop of him trying to latch on and him being at the bottom and then shrinking away a bit to be like, well, maybe I'll just play a small target here. And then that massive 180 when he's got the idols of, now I'm going to run this and I'm going to be the big threat. I'm going to make you scared of me now. And it's like, it's so interesting that that's the same person playing this game, but under completely different conditions. So I'd be very curious to know, if anyone does know or wants to look it up, that'd be awesome to chuck it in the comments so we can see how many times Miles was actually safe.
Yeah, and so at the end of the day, we get to the vote, and we've got so who votes for who at this point? So Kate votes for Kaylin, Miles votes for AJ, Kaylin votes for Miles to set up the rat trap, and then Zara and AJ vote for Kate, and Kate goes home. So realistically, if Kate had voted AJ, it goes to a 2 on AJ, 2 on Kate, and Miles is null and void. Then Kate and AJ don't vote, so then Kaylin, Miles, and Zara decide who goes home
between those two, which I reckon.
And then probably Kate still goes home.
Yeah, it might still be Kate at that point. And maybe that's something Zara thought through, that like, well, if Kate flips the vote, I don't know. There's so many different parts of this, but it was interesting to see in the end. It was kind of down to Zara being like, well, I think this is the better move for me. And we heard it spoken about. And we did have a little bit of a jury pitch from Zara in that. Like, she kind of got fed the question quite comfortably. She's like, oh, yeah, I'll start my jury pitch now. This is good. Thanks, JLP. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Cheers. With the alley-oop, I'll dunk it.
And then Kate goes home with it, and she did a little slut drop at the end.
She did. She did. I'm sure Miles would be very impressed with the pole dancing.
I think
skills.
Miles was taking some notes. And then they zoomed in on Zara's face as well, which was quite weird after that. Zara was
in
like,
shock.
She was like, this is
girl.
PTA behavior.
You go. Get out of my school.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. So that's pretty much it. Should we? Who do you think spun and grun, Josh?
Spun and grunt. It was a very Zara and Miles couple of episodes, I reckon. I'd say Zara.
I think Zara
spun
gets
and
the
grun
two.
the most.
I think Zara gets the two.
I feel we had a lot of agency, a lot of thinking, a lot of plans, and a lot of discussions about how to get and wanted immunity. So maybe we'll give Zara a couple.
Yep. And then who gets the single?
Spinning red.
Thank you so much. And then the single does it go to AJ?
It's got to be Kalen, doesn't it? He's broken a record.
Oh, yep, true. Yeah, true. We'll get him and he didn't go home.
Spinning red.
6 times. Hang on. That's 1.
Oh, God.
Spinning
2.
red. Spinning red.
3.
Spinning red.
Whoa!
It's a lot. This is how many he's won.
Spinning red.
Crazy. And the record breaker.
Spinning red.
There you go. Kalen, well done, Kalen. Get a point there. Very good. And on the flip side of that, who ruffled some feathers?
What did you say?
I said ruffled.
It was to rustle
rolled up.
feathers,
Sorry.
ruffle feathers.
Sorry, ruffle. I think there's a couple of people here. I think Miles is up there.
Miles is up there, I think.
I think Kate is the other one. I think she tried to do some sneakiness. Anyone else
I think the others feel pretty solid. Or maybe Zara, because she sort of flipped on Miles at the end there. I think Miles, because he's like stirring up this stuff. And there's definitely, and we saw then that last moment of AJ being like, "Who did you vote for?" You, and he's like, "Why?"
AJ just couldn't.
That was
like,
great.
What?
You're like, what?
He's like, didn't.
He's again, not enough RAM to compute.
Not enough
this, AJ.
RAM.
So I think Miles will give him 1.
You said rustle feathers.
And then, who do you reckon? Or do we give
We'll
Miles
2?
two? Give Miles 2. And Zara, do you want to give it to Zara or Kate?
Yeah, let's give it to Zara.
Give it to Zara for 1.
Yeah. I like
You said rustle feathers.
Thank you so much, Tyson, for that. That's it, mate. We've got 1 episode left.
The big finale next week.
The big finale. And so it's all come really quick. It's all really sped up.
I've really enjoyed getting down to this nuts and bolts. It feels like it's completely changed when you've got like this last little core group of 4 and they're having to really fight their way through each other and figure out their past. I found it really interesting.
Honestly, it's always always funner when the alliance has to eat itself. And I think we said this early in the season where, we've got to get through a Jesse vote, a Ben vote, a Morgan vote, like all these votes.
These people we saw nothing of. So you're like,
we didn't really care. And we did get through these votes. And the interesting ones are these ones where the brains have to turn on each other and do that. And that's been really good. And that's what got interesting.
And I think what stands unique in this season, it feels like everyone left's got a pretty good pitch. Like it doesn't feel like it's a foregone conclusion. I feel like the combinations between them, there's a pretty good chance for any of them. It doesn't feel like there's any real goats, which is good.
Okay, final 4. Who wins next week?
It's got to be AJ or Miles for me, I think. I feel the way Miles is coming for AJ, I feel it could be Miles, but I think I've got to stick with AJ. But he has dropped off. We did not see a lot of AJ these last 2 episodes.
It's not good for his edit.
Zara and Miles show.
It's not good for his edit. For a winner's edit at this late in the game, so looking at the edit and looking at the path forward, I think the boys turn on Miles, get rid of him at final 4. Zara wins the final 3 immunity, and Zara takes Kalen, and Zara Zara wins. That's what I see. That's what I see.
I could see it. I'm gonna say it could be Miles though. It could be Miles. He's had a lot.
If Miles wins that the only thing saving Miles, if he wins this next immunity,
I'm gonna say AJ with my heart, Miles with my head.
Okay.
Based on the edit, what we saw the last couple episodes.
Love it.
How about you? What's your pick?
No, I think Zara. I think the path forward is Zara. Zara wins. Yeah, I think from what I'm looking at the lay of the land and who's going to turn on who, I think it's
insert shocked Zara face here.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Thank you, mate. Guys, everyone out there, chuck some comments in the chat. It's been really good. We get to them.
It's been awesome. Everyone's been putting heaps of stuff in the chat, so really appreciate that. Keep that coming. We'll try and respond to as much as we can. Chuck in some reviews on your podcatcher, on your Spotify, your Apple Podcast. Give us a review.
Give it a like. Give it a share.
Tell your mates.
Good news is, yes, we've only got one more episode of this.
Great news. Thank God.
I've got some more exit interviews lined up. I believe I'll be able to talk to all of the final four.
Great.
Which would be great. So that's something to look forward to.
Great.
And
Can't wait to put all those together.
Yeah, thanks for that, Josh. And then that'll round out our season of Brains versus Brawn 2. So it's been a wild ride.
Can't wait for the next week. Thanks, folks.
Thanks, guys. See you soon. Bye.